Yo, what's up, people? What's up? This is Tireo, and I'm back, y'all, with another video and also another eye-opening message. And in this video and in this message, I am going to be talking about how God will find you in a dark place. God will find you in a dark place. When God picks a person and he chooses a person, he will find you in a dark place of your life. Okay. And a lot of it's as simple, y'all, as simple as this message may sound. A lot of people don't even understand that, because think about it. They believe that God will find them in church. That's what they think. They think that God will find them in church, and they think that if they go to church, God will find them, he will talk to them, and he will speak to them. But it's not true. All that's just religion, nonsense, and foolishness. When God picks and chooses a person, he will always find you when you are in a dark place of your life. First thing first is this: if you're not spiritual, this message in this video is not for you. Okay? Now, back to reality of this message. When God picks a person, he seeks them. God will always show up to you when you're in a dark moment, in a dark place of your life. You want some Bible examples? Let Tireo give them to you. Okay. Look at the Apostle Paul. We all know the Apostle Paul. We all know his story. We all know the Apostle Paul was always not a follower of God. The Apostle Paul once hated the followers of God. We know that. It's all in the book of Acts. The Apostle Paul was going around murdering the followers of God. He hated the followers of God. He was jealous of the followers of God. He didn't even believe in the real God. He didn't believe it. So you know what that's saying? That's letting me know, and that's letting you know, the Apostle Paul was at a dark place of his life. Think about it. When you hate God, you hate his followers, you jealous person, you evil, you wicked, you murdering God's people. That's called a dark place. That's called a dark place. He was in a dark place of his life because he was going around murdering followers of God, hating them and everything. The Apostle Paul was in a dark place. And what happened? Jesus showed up on the scene. Jesus showed up on the set and reached him and came after him. Knocked him off the horse he was on, blinded him for 3 days, and then spoke to him and said, "Why are you persecuting me?" And Paul like, man, what you talk about persecuting? Jesus like, you persecuting me. Jesus came to him when he was in a dark place of his life. And y'all, that's exactly how God operates. Every time God shows up to a person and he shows up in your life, he gonna come to you when you're in a dark moment of your life. That's how God works. He's gonna show up in your life when you are in a dark place. God is not gonna show up in your life as long as you're sitting in church. I'm telling the truth. I'm keeping it real. Let's be real, y'all. When have God ever showed up in anyone's life when they was just in church? No, because there's too many religious rules. And one thing about God, God cannot flow and God cannot move when you're stopping him with religious rules. That's why God can't show up to nobody in church. That's why everybody in the church today, y'all, they still blinded. They still don't know nothing. They still don't know the truth. They're not even smart. The people don't even have wisdom. And they keep expecting God to show up, and God can't show up. Because when God shows up, he will show up in your life when you are in a dark moment. Example number 2, Moses. When God showed up in Moses' life, Moses was in a dark moment. Because remember, for you all who don't know the story, let me refresh your memory. Moses committed murder. Okay? Moses was on a run. He left the palace. He ran away from Pharaoh and all them. He bounced. He was on a run. Moses was a fugitive. See, a lot of you all don't even know that about Moses. Moses was a fugitive. He was on a run. Moses was a fugitive. He was on a run. He killed a man, okay, and he rolled out. And what happened? God showed up in his life. God showed up to Moses when Moses was in a dark moment. Moses didn't even know who the hell he was at the time when God showed up to him. Let's be clear on that. Moses was lost. Come on, y'all. Let's tell it like it is. Moses was lost. When God showed up to Moses by the burning bush and God was talking to Moses through the burning bush, Moses was lost at that time. Moses did not know who the hell he was in God. Moses was in a dark place. Moses didn't even know he was chosen. Remember, Moses did not even know he was chosen. And let me tell you something. When you don't know you're chosen, that's called being in a dark place because you're blinded. Moses didn't even know he was chosen by God. Moses didn't even know the real God. And then remember, he was on a run for murder. He had murdered a man. Dude didn't even know who the hell he was. He didn't even know he was chosen to set the people free. He didn't even know that. That's called a dark place. A lot of you all are just like Moses. You're in a dark place. You don't even know you're chosen. You don't even know you're chosen to set somebody free. You don't even know you're chosen to help somebody. That's called a dark place. You're lost. You're blinded. The devil got scales over your eyes. You can't even see what God wants you to do. That's called being in a dark place. You don't even know who the hell you were. That's just like Moses. Moses didn't know who he was. That's called a dark place. And what happened? God showed up in his life. See what I'm saying? When God shows up, y'all, and when God comes to you, he's always going to come to you when you were in a dark place. Let's look at Mary Magdalene, which I love in the Bible because people just hate to preach on Mary Magdalene. Even women preachers, they hate to preach on Mary Magdalene, boy. But Tireo going to talk about Mary Magdalene because Mary Magdalene is one of my favorite women of the Bible. Mary Magdalene is one of my favorite women of the Bible. But even Jesus showed up to Mary Magdalene when she was in a dark place. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute at one time of her life. She was roaming the streets, sleeping with men for money. She had 7 demons in her, and yet, Jesus shows up to her and sets her free. Jesus showed up to Mary Magdalene, not from Mary Magdalene being in church. He showed up to her when she was in a dark place of her life. Prostitution, sleeping with men for money. Okay. Mary Magdalene probably was sucking men off. You know what I'm saying? For money. Letting probably 5 guys hit it in one day for money. She had 7 demons in her. That's called a dark place, y'all. Mary Magdalene was in a dark place. She was in a dark place of her life. And God showed up to her. See what I'm saying? Mary Magdalene wasn't in church. Come on, y'all. Jesus showed up to her when she was in a dark place of her life. God will always show up to you when you are in a dark place of your life. Seriously. It's true. Look at Peter. Peter was in a dark place of his life, y'all. What, Tireo? How can you say Peter? Peter was in a dark place. Peter was a broke fisherman. Peter was a broke fisherman. He wasn't, remember, fishing was Peter's job. And Peter was not even making money fishing, catching fish. Because his job was you catch the fish and you sell the fish and that's how you pay your bills. Peter couldn't even catch fish. His business was under a curse. He was broke. Peter was broke. Peter didn't have money. Peter was broke. His business was not successful in catching fish. He was a fisherman, but his business was not successful. That's a dark place. Because he's trying to make a living to feed his family and stuff, and nothing's prospering. That's a dark place. That's a dark place for somebody. It's a lot of people out there right now. Their business can't grow. Their business is under a curse. They can't prosper. That's called another dark place. And watch this. Remember when Jesus showed up? Jesus told Peter, he said, take the nets off the boat and throw it in the water. And Peter was like, man, you tripping, man. What you talking about, man? Take the net off the boat, throw it in the water. Because remember, Peter didn't know who Jesus was. And Jesus was like, hey, Take the net out the boat, throw it in the water. So when Peter listened to Jesus and threw it in the water, he caught all that fish. You see what I'm saying? Jesus came to Peter when Peter was in a dark place of his life, y'all. Think about it. Peter was stressed. Think about it. He was a broke fisherman. He can't make no money with his business. And then on top of that, this man was married with a wife and children. That's extra stress. Think about it. You got a wife and kids, and you can't prosper? Oh, man, that's a nightmare for somebody. That's a dark place. That's a dark place. Because think about it. Because marriage alone, y'all, is stressful. We all know that. Okay? We already know what comes with marriage. And then you got a business that can't prosper and succeed. So think about it. Peter is in a dark place of his life. And that's when Jesus came to him. See what I'm saying? God will always show up to you when you are in a dark place, man. And this is so simple. This is so crazy because everybody be running to church like God gonna show up. And God never shows up. Let me tell you something. Church people think God showing up is when gospel music is playing, y'all. They think that's when God is showing up. Church people think God is showing up when the choir is singing. They think that's God, y'all. That's music. That's not God. That's music. Let me tell you something. God is so powerful. God don't need music to show up. God don't need a choir to show up. God don't need a pastor to show up. God don't need a bunch of gospel singers in the church to show up. When God shows up, he is going to show up. And this is what Christians don't understand. This is what church folk don't understand. They singing all the songs, y'all. They doing the praise and worship. They trying to do all this stuff to get God to show up, and God still don't show up. Y'all, let me tell y'all something, man. Even my life, I could use myself for example of this message. I could throw myself into the bunch. God showed up in my life, y'all, when I was in a dark place. That's right. He did. God did. I'm telling the truth. I was in a gang. I was in New Orleans. I was in a gang. Getting in a bunch of trouble in high school. Cutting class. You know, just in the world. In the world, man. And God showed up to Tireo. He showed up. He came in my life. Yes, he did. He came in my life, man. Yup, that's right. I was in a dark place. I was, man. Come on, y'all. Let's be real. When you in a gang, you in the world, you're getting in trouble in school, you're cutting class, you're skipping class, you're not even going to school as much. You got this street beef going on with other gangs, you know what I'm saying? You're beefing with the 7th Ward, the 7th Ward beefing with the 3rd Ward, the 3rd Ward beefing with the 9th Ward. We had all that going on. That's called a dark place. Okay? That's called a dark place. I didn't know about no Jesus. Let me tell y'all something. I didn't know about Jesus. I didn't even know who Jesus was. I did not know who Jesus was, y'all. Come on, man. I'm being real. I was in the world. I was lost. I didn't know who Jesus was. But guess what? Jesus knew who I was. I just didn't know who he was, but he knew who I was. He was like, that's Tireo. He chosen. Okay, but hey, at the time when I was 18, hey man, I didn't know I was chosen for all this powerful stuff I'm doing today. I didn't know that. But God knew that. And when God shows up to you, he's always going to show up to you when you are in a dark place, man. As simple as this video sounds, y'all, people keep running to that church thinking God going to show up. This is crazy, but it's true. Now, a lot of you all who are listening to this, you in a dark place right now in your life. Let me tell you something. You in a dark place. It's a guy who listening to this, and you in a dark place, man. You in a dark place. You probably got a lot going on in your personal life. You know what I'm saying? You probably in the streets, in the club. You probably smoking. You know what I'm saying? Probably drinking alcohol. You can't let go of the women. You in a dark place, brother. You in a dark place. Okay, then, you know, you got women who listening to this. You sleeping with all these different men. man to man, relationship. You know, you in a dark place, lady. And then you got other women who are listening to this to where you're probably in some satanic marriage. The marriage ain't of God. You know what I'm saying? That's just something you was doing. You know, you want to be free. You want out of all that stuff. You in a dark place. That's called a dark place, man. Let me tell you something. Take notes and write this down right quick. Let me tell you something. The most simplest definition of a dark place. Take notes and write this down because this is going to help you. This is the most simplest definition of a dark place, and I'm going to give it to you. A dark place is any place where you're not ordained to be by God. That's a dark place. That's a dark place. A dark place is any place that you're not ordained to be by God. That's a dark place. And a lot of you all, you are in a dark place. You're in a dark place hanging with the wrong crowd. You're in a dark place being married to the wrong man or woman. You're in a dark place in a relationship that you ain't supposed to be in. You're in a dark place having sex with that cursed man and that cursed woman. You're in a dark place living in that city that you're living in and you ain't even supposed to be living there. You're in a dark place working this job that God don't even want you at. Yep. That all these different things are dark places. A dark place is a place where you're at somewhere that's not ordained by God. Or you're living a certain way that God don't want you living. Because remember, the Apostle Paul was living a certain way that God didn't want him living. Moses was living a certain way that God didn't want him living. Peter was in a cursed place that God didn't even want him at. Because remember, after Peter started following Jesus, he wasn't even fishing anymore. So when we look at the story of Peter, Peter wasn't even supposed to be a fisherman. Because remember, he was chosen to follow Jesus. So watch this. Watch this. If Peter was ordained to be a fisherman, don't you think that Jesus would have told him go back and fish? No. Think about it. If Peter was really ordained to just be this fisherman instead of following Jesus, Jesus would have never made him a disciple. Look at that with an open eye. I'm going to say it again. If Peter really was ordained to be a fisherman, Jesus would have never made him a disciple. Peter became a truth speaker, y'all. Read the book of Acts. You know the story. Peter wasn't no fisherman no more. Peter was a disciple. That boy became a truth speaker for God. So here it is. Peter was never ordained to be a fisherman. He was lost. Peter was in a dark place. A dark place ain't nothing but a place in the area that's whereas you're there, but it's not ordained by God. That means you're in a dark place. A lot of you all right now are in a dark place. You're in a dark city. You're in a dark marriage, a dark relationship, a dark friendship, a dark job. Hang around all these family members and God been told you, stay away from them crazy people. That's a dark place, man. That's a dark place because you got to get where God want you to be. That's right. And God will always show up to you when you are in a dark place. He will. So with all that being said, y'all, this is Tireo, and I had to just hit y'all with this eye-opening and truthful and spiritual message. You got to be spiritual to get this kind of stuff, y'all. Because if you worldly and religious, you ain't going to understand this stuff, man. You're just going to stay in a dark place of your life. So with all that being said, y'all, this is Tireo, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.